Hello, Peekers, and welcome back to the Plot Peak podcast. I'm Miranda.
And I'm Mackenzie, and this is your one stop shop for storytelling.
Tea spilling.
And to keep up with all the latest book talk gossip that you've been missing out on.
Any life updates for you?
No, nothing.
I just came home from a terrible home visit. That's my only life update. I won't delve too much into that, but my mom just had a mommy makeover and she's got some post-op complications. Nothing too serious, but went home just to visit her. And my last day there, she was brought to the hospital and inpatient admitted. So,
but I didn't know that's what she was getting done, actually. Good for her.
Yeah, I know. I'm really happy for her, but it sounds like a biatch to recover from. She was talking about how they went in. Obviously, they did the lipo because hers was mostly like skin reduction that she needed, so a tummy tuck, and they also had to like suture her muscles together. So imagine just how much your muscles are sore after a really good workout, and then imagine getting like needles put through to sew it together. I can't imagine that kind of pain. That sounds, and your stomach of all places, like if she's coughing, if she has to use the bathroom, if she's throwing up, like that's all her stomach. Oh gosh, I just felt so bad for her. She was in so much pain.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine that. And they make a pretty good little incision and stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she has 2 drains that we're tracking, and yeah, it's just tragic.
Terrible.
Anyways, that's all the fun, life updates I've got.
Fun. Yeah, every time you ask me, I'm like, what do I even do? Nothing.
Nothing.
I have a Halloween party this weekend, a work party, which I'm low-key hoping is kind of like one of those work parties where everybody's like, we're going to be cute at first, and then like low-key rager kind of thing, to get to know everybody.
I love those kinds.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but it might be more adult. We'll see.
What are you going to dress up as?
I'm going as a siren. I found a makeup tutorial to make like scales and like fishy look, and I'm going to do like lashes, some pearls. It's fun. I'm excited.
So cute. I'm going to be Buttercup from the Powerpuff Girls for Halloween.
Oh, I love that. That's so fun.
Okay. Well, if that is all the life updates, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a quick reminder that we're going to be covering Sarah J. Maas's Queen of Shadows, chapters 31 through 39. So if you're new around here, this is your warning. We're going to be storytelling everything that's happened up to and through these chapters. So if you have not read and you do not want spoilers, this is your warning. Let's do a quick recap before we jump into this week's story time. The king's magic-blooded prisoners seem to have disappeared overnight, and it's making Chaol feel even more like a fuck-up than he already did. Nesrin is getting the ick because she's tired of Chaol being a whiny baby, and all she really wants is a way for this country to move forward. She's been trying to get through to Chaol's stupid head and tell him that Aelin is literally the only hope for a better future at this point. Aelin was summoned to the fighting pits, and she was asked to fight a Valguard on Arabin's behalf. And instead of bringing him an unconscious guard like he wanted, she brought him a curb-stomped, decapitated head. So now Arabin is holding Sam's burial site over her head as leverage to get her to do what he asked her to do, which is bring him a Valg demon to experiment on. Rowan has arrived to Rifthold with news to share. 1, Lorcan, one of his compadres, was sent here on Queen Maeve's behalf, trying to find her and the word key, her being Aelin. And 2, he tells everyone who Aiden's daddy is, another one of his friends, and a legendary warrior who is also sworn to Maeve. His name is Gabriel. And then 3, he spilt the tea that he took Aelin's sacred blood oath. And Aiden lost his shit and flipped out on everybody because that blood oath was his birthright and a super sacred thing to the leaders of Terrasen. Manon has given Alide the choice to choose the color of her blood, and Alide chose blue. So this means she's officially part of the Blackbeak Witch Clan and under Manon's protection, even though Elide is still terrified of the witches and still contemplating her escape from her evil Uncle Vernon. Did I miss anything?
No, I'm so excited to hear more.
Yeah, this one is a fun one. So we're going to start actually in Morath for this story time. We're going to start in Manon's POV. And before we get too far into that part, did we mention that Lady Kaltain is here in Morath?
Yeah, we did in the first episode. We talked about her being kind of like a shell of herself. She looks beaten. She looks bruised. Her body looks terrible, basically.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really speak.
Yeah, so she's a mute. She's got that collar around her, so we can assume that she's being possessed by one of these demons. And then we also left off that the Yellow Legs had come into Morath, and they volunteered to go into the breeding experiment in place of the Blackbeaks. So this day comes around, and Manon storms into Parrington's tent, and she's like, "Excuse me, why are my 13 and I not allowed to go underneath the mountain and check out these Yellow Legs and make sure they're doing okay?" And she sees him. He turns around, he has got these crazy black eyes, and then she looks behind him and she sees Lady Kaltain standing over this man. And this man is on the ground crying, screaming, and it looks like he is on fire, but this fire is not burning him. So it's like invisible, painless fire. I don't know if that makes sense. We're going to call it shadow fire. Well, that's what Lady Kaltain actually calls it. So Manon comes in, she sees all this, and she's like, "What is going on?" And Parrington's trying to shoo her out. She's like, No. What's going on? And Lady Kaltain, she turns around and super flat, she's like, "Shadow fire." And that is the tea on that, because now we know that the king has two super powerful people possessed by these demons who have really strong power. So we've got Dorian possessed with his big powers, and now we've got Lady Kaltain possessed with this shadow fire. Crazy.
Well, and we know too that they were using demi-fae for experiments. So basically anyone possessed has some kind of power, but to have these two really strong people with like crazy powers possessed is terrifying.
Yeah, it's definitely, again, putting him at another big advantage against Aelin and her team and what they're fighting for. So I'm nervous to see how this all goes down, because it sounds like they're building just a super force. Mm-hmm. So she goes back to Parrington, or Manon goes back to Parrington. She's asking, she's like, why can't I go see these Yellow Legs? Like, let's just talk about that business then. And he's like, well, I would let you know, but I actually wanted these Blackbeaks. So if you had given me those, maybe you would know what's going on down there. And she's like, fine. Okay. Can you just tell me what's going on down there? Because I'm still the wing leader and I should know kind of like what the operations are. And in the most haunting voice and face, his eyes turn black again. Manon sees something slithering behind his eyes, and he tells her, "You do not even want to know what's being forged and bred down there." And then he drops some more tea and tells her that apparently whatever he's up to, her grandma is also helping him. And so to summarize this whole scene, we've just learned that the king is up to something massive, because he's got endless supply of these demon soldiers, multiple Valg princes being possessed, possessing powerful magic beings like Dorian and Lady Kaltain. He himself is gifted in the word magic. And now whatever the hell it is that they're breeding and forging under the mountain.
I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Also, Manon's grandma is a fake bitch. Like, who is she siding with? Why? Why is she siding with them?
I don't understand either. Like, it seems at this point like it should be pretty obvious that the king's mission is not aligning with the witch's mission. And I don't know why she's still assisting.
Yeah, they don't care what the witches are doing. They're using them as pawns and using some like blanket statement of like, "Oh, we'll get you back to your home," whatever. But they don't care about that.
Yeah. No,
like,
they're not.
I feel like she knows that. She has to know that too. That's not their goal, is to get them home.
Yeah. I feel like something sus is definitely going on with the grandma. I've never liked her to begin with, so I'm not surprised that she is helping them, but it's still like, what is her angle here? Because it's not obviously working towards getting towards the Western ways. Like, they're doing something bigger than just trying to claim this continent. And it's like way beyond what they needed to be doing to begin with, because they were just supposed to be assistants, like cavaliers in the air. And now she's helping them build more things underneath this mountain.
And some weird breeding experience.
Ooh, I wonder if the grandma's possessed. Am I onto something? I just had that epiphany right now. What if she's being possessed?
Perhaps.
Well, she doesn't have any, we don't know of any rings on her, so we'll keep an eye out on that. So later that afternoon, Aelin is walking around this vicinity and she goes to her closet because she wants to go take a nap. But when she gets up there, she feels like there's someone waiting on her on the other side of her door. So she does a logical thing of not entering the spooky room, and she opts out to go cuddle next to a wyvern. She goes up to the wyvern's lair and she gets met by Abraxos, who notices her immediately. And she tells him to sit. She's talking to him. She's like, hey, I think there's someone in my room. I'm really scared and I really need to go to sleep. So she lays down in the hair area next to him and he does the goodest boy behavior and he wraps his wing around her to keep her warm. She ends up dozing off a little bit longer than she had planned and she wakes up to a secret 13 meeting. Still under Abraxos' wings, she's like, I need to get out of here before somebody notices that I'm listening. And spoiler alert, they all know that she's in there because they can smell her. Manon specifically called this meeting so Aelin could overhear this issue that Parrington is up to something and hiding it from them, and they need to figure out what's going on with these yellow leg witches. Aelin is like, well, I need to get out of here before they realize that I'm listening to all this. And she starts to like scoot. It sounds like in the book, like she's scooting and like she's just like, because she's still chained, so she can't walk and she makes a lot of noises when she walks. So she's like scooting towards this exit. And Manon clocks her and she's like, if you really had a backbone, you would have waited until we left to run. But now that you're here, I want to send you under the mountain to find out what's going on and report back to us. You can stay in my chambers if you feel unsafe, but you are one of mine now and you will do what I tell you to do. And we find out that Manon was actually the one hiding in her room, and she wanted to see where Aelin would go and then kind of follow up with that. And she purposely held the meeting where Aelin was at, so that way she could get her to do what she needed her to do. She's both very smart and manipulative.
And a little scary.
Very scary, actually.
Yeah.
So Aelin stays with Manon the next few nights, and during the day, she's trying to gain the trust of the other housekeepers, trying to figure out who goes down to clean the chambers in the mountain. She follows this one maid one day, and she gets to a hallway where she overhears her creepy Uncle Vernon talking to Lady Caltaine. And essentially, she hears him trying to take advantage of her, Lady Caltaine, since she's all alone, and he tries to make these sexual advances on her that stir nothing anger and Aelin to make her interrupt his pursuit. She finds Lady Caltaine pushed against the wall. Her dress is half torn off her body, and she looks like she was just empty on the inside. And Aelin makes up the excuse that Manon wanted to see Lady Caltaine just to get her away from Vernon. And Vernon can tell that that is a lie. And he calls her out and he says, you better be careful because your iron teeth are starting to show, which is tea, because up until now, she only suspected that he knew about her heritage. And now it seems like he's letting her know that he's onto her.
Which is also more disgusting because that's also, we talked about in, I think, the other episode, probably why he's kept her chained this long, too. Not only like a humiliation thing, but also because she's a witch. And he knew that 100%.
I'm not sure what his angle is, though. Like Manon said, like, if he thought that she was a witch, why hasn't he done anything yet? Like, what is he up to? What's his game plan here? Very suspicious. Okay, so that's the end of Morath right now. We're going to move back to Rifthold. But before we jump into that, I also have some more questions because I am confusion. So we learned that Aiden's dad is full fae, which makes him half fae, which means that there's a chance that he, Aelin, would outlive Aelin. But now I'm confused because, one, they seem like this is a surprise. So, like, how did they not know that Aelin was half fae? Because he's huge, he's fast, and he can smell things. Like, he's got all those fae senses. And two, how is Aelin not half fae with her gifts? Like, she is literally a high fae when she switches.
So they knew Aelin was half fae. He has the pointed ears. He had speed. He had all the strength, everything like that. His mom just never revealed who his dad was. She said that he was a fae warrior, but she would never say anything else about it. And Aelin was always frustrated about that. But that was never revealed to him. So this was the fact that he's a famous Fae warrior and that people know of him. That is probably also why his mom kept it from him, because when she got pregnant, he was still already sworn to Maeve, blood sworn to Maeve.
Mm-hmm.
Then Aelin's parents were both human, but they both had Fae magic in their bloodline. Neither one of them had powers. Neither one of them were Fae, but she somehow, through whatever biological whatever, has the powers. But we learn more about like her heritage in future books, but she does have fire breathers or fire wielders in her line. So she just inherited that.
All right, folks. So you heard it here. Just go with it. Aiden's half Fae and Aelin is not. She's just got powers when she switches.
They are both demi-Fae, but Aiden happens to have more Fae in him, so he is more likely to live longer because she may have a normal human lifespan and he may not. He may have a full Fae lifespan.
So it's just up in the air for her, like if she does have a human lifespan or not. Nobody knows for sure. It's just kind of like a waiting game to see how she ages and stuff.
Yeah, they talk about it, I think, later too. They go through something called the settling at like in their mid-20s or something, and you just won't know if you're going to go through it until you go through it, and you basically just stop aging, or like your aging will slow down massively.
Yeah.
If you go through that settling.
And I guess it's a pretty obvious phase once you go through that. Like, is it like a period where you get a mark when you're like, oh, I must be settling?
I don't want to give too much away.
Okay. Then we move on. So we pick up in Rifthold the day after the big blood oath blow up, and Rowan and Aiden are being bros. You know how boys just like fight and then they move on like nothing happened, and they're like, yeah, let's just keep going. That's what they're doing. Yeah, they're just sparring in the apartment. And Aelin knows that Aiden is still too injured to be sparring with Rowan, of all people. But he is ignoring her concerns and still trying to fight because he's stubborn and he just needs to prove his toughness to Prince Rowan. And so he ignores her. They continue fighting. And then Rowan gets him pinned in a very painful position. And he's like, if you ignore your queen's command or speak to her in the way that you did last night, I will rip out your tongue. Respectfully, of course. To which Aiden finally is like, okay, fine, fair enough. All right, I'll listen. And they kind of get into it though, like they're bickering, even though he's like yielding. And Aiden is finally realizing why Aelin likes Rowan and why she gave him the blood oath. He is obviously loyal, fiercely protective of her. So even though Aiden is salty that he stole the blood oath, he can't help but to respect the asshole.
I feel like that's how everyone kind of gets to. Before you love Rowan, you're like, you're annoying, but I kind of respect you. And then, you know, he's a good guy. He's just such an asshole.
It seems like he just has to assault them a little bit, and then they're like, oh, look at him.
But isn't Aelin's kind of the same way? She's kind of mean.
Is. I feel like we've seen her be mean, and I think since we've just read so much with her, we've just gotten used to it. Like, I think that maybe she was like that in the beginning, but now I'm like, she's just Aelin. Like, that's just normal. Yeah,
I mean, she was shit-talking Chaol and Dorian, like, the entire first book until they became friends.
Yeah.
And then, like Lysandra, she basically was like, I will kill you if I see you again. And now they're like besties.
Yeah.
And Rowan, even though he was mean to her, she was kind of a bitch to him as well.
She was trying to ruffle his feathers.
Mm-hmm.
She was not quite yet healed yet. So she has done her character growth, and she is still mean sometimes, but it's well deserved to the people that she has to be mean to, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But speaking of Lysandra, she had actually come by during Rowan and Aiden's sparring match to drop off some extra large clothes for Rowan. And she is giving interesting vibes to me lately. I know that we can trust her, and she's helping them and warning them about Arabin and everything. But she's also giving these looks, and there's undertones to the things that she's saying that make her seem dark in some sense. And I can't quite figure out what's going on here. I don't think that she's evil. I think that she's more just dark and twisted like Rowan and Aelin, like where she's just a little devious.
Like there's something she's holding on to maybe that she hasn't isn't ready to reveal. She's got her own motives too, I think.
Yeah. And I'm like, what is she up to? Because, yeah, I don't know. I'm just keeping my eyes on her as well. Then Kale has finally met Rowan. He's pretending like he's not terrified and shaking in his boots when he meets Rowan. He's like, oh, hey. And they have their little meeting. Aelin tells him that she actually knows where the missing prisoners went off to. They're being transported to Morath. So she's like, Kale, I need you to get a group of your rebels, go ambush that transportation and free those prisoners. So Kale goes off and he does that. That's his little mission. And after that, the day is pretty much open for Aelin, and she decides to show Rowan around her world that she grew up in. They go out to the town, they're eating food and snacks, going to these local shops, talking and having a really good time until Rowan gets triggered passing by a flower stand, and he sees a girl who looks just like his late mate, Lyria. Lyria?
Mm-hmm. I said Lyria, yeah.
Yeah. So she's like, listen, it's okay. Like, don't freak out. And Rowan is like real beat up. He's like, I never deserved her. I should not have even had her as my maid. Like, I did not deserve that kind of person. And Aelin is telling her his truth. I had a person as well, Sam, and I didn't deserve him either. And there's one place in the city that brought me solitude and peace, and I want to show that to you. Like, this is where I went when I needed my own time. So she brings him down to the shutdown Royal Theater, and she tells him about how much music and art has anchored her during the hardest times of her life. And he pushes her a little bit, and he's like, well, why don't you go show me something that you can do? If you're like so into art, you tell me you can play music, show me. So they're in this abandoned theater, and she gets to this abandoned piano, and she begins to play for the first time in forever. And the music, like, I know that Dorian had caught her playing music before in the early days of Throne of Glass, and it was very sad and melancholy and depressing because she was thinking about Sam. But this one was much more uplifting, much more hopeful and inspiring. And she is just going off on it, and it is just bringing so much emotion to this empty space. And Rowan, when she's done, is left with like tears lining his eyes. And he's just like, I did not know you had so much in you. I did not know that art meant this much to you. And I understand. The only thing I have to say about this is I understand the importance of like the art and their bonding and everything, but it seems kind of out of place out of all the things that's happening. They're just like, let's go play some piano.
I don't know. I think I get it. I feel like they probably just don't have many like good moments. I feel like there had to be some normalcy, good moments in there too. Plus, I feel like at this point she's hardcore crushing on him, and I feel like she's smitten with him, even if it's like not 100% like I want to rip your clothes off right now. She is like has so much affection for him, and I feel like she's I don't know. I think she's so excited to have him back. That's how I interpreted it in my head.
I feel like whenever Aelin gets feelings for somebody, whether that be a friend or romantic, she like feels hard and she gives so much to them. But she literally is like, I want to give you everything that I am. I want you to experience everything that I have. I want you to have the best. And I just think it's so sweet.
No, I love it. I love it so much. And I also, oh my gosh, I meant to say this in the last episode, but we were talking and I forgot to talk about it. Do you remember in Assassin's Blade, it was when Sam he was like staying at her apartment or something, and she kept getting onto him for using her lavender soap. She was like, why are you always using my nice soap? And then there was a part we didn't talk about too much in the last book, but where Rowan was like basically in the bathtub and she didn't watch him get undressed or anything. He was like submerged under the water, but they had this like intimate moment where she was washing her hair and she like offered him all these different soaps, and he was like, I don't care. And she chose her lavender soap for him. I feel like she knows that every moment is so precious. That's kind of how I interpreted this, like,
you're right.
Trying to take these moments of like precious, like, I don't know what kind of time we realistically have. I'm going to make every moment count type thing.
That's a good grounding comment to make, because I was like, aren't there things that we could be doing right now? But obviously, like we said, it was a downtime. What was she going to be able to do right now? There really wasn't much besides figuring out more of the plan to free magic and how to save these prisoners, which Kale is working on. So I think that's a valid comment to make to my hot take.
Well, I made that little connection from TikTok, so I can't take all the credit for it, but
thank you, TikTok.
Thank you.
Okay, so during Aelin and Rowan's outing, Chaol is finally getting a win for once. He gets the transporters ambushed and he frees the prisoners. And they are having a great time and he's feeling good. He asks Nessa and he's like, you know what? Why don't we go out for some celebratory drinks? And she's like, oh, now that you're not pissy and sad, you want to hang out with me. That's so interesting. So she's giving him like a hard time, but she eventually is like, fine, whatever, I'll do it. But then Nesrin is wondering, why is the king making such a big push to get these prisoners sent to Morath all of a sudden? Like, we know what Chaol's answer is going to be. Obviously, it's Aelin. It's Aelin's fault for everything. But Nesrin is like, no, because he's known that Aelin is alive for only 2 months. And it seems like he's been working on this specific plan for years. Like, he's got things going on. This has been in the works. But why? Like, what is he going after? What are they up to? So I think they're about to realize the plans that he's not just trying to conquer Adelin and this continent that they're on. I think they're going to start to figure out that he's trying to go worldwide with this
Worldwide. Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide. But I also do feel like he's acting faster because she has returned. So he's like, oh, shiz. Aelin's here. I got to hurry up and get this stuff going before she's got a chance to stop me. So I think that they're half and half right for once.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it's also, I think she's probably feeling more urgency now too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so then we also know that Lorcan is Lorcan or Lorcan?
Lorcan. Yeah.
Lorcan. We know that Lorcan is in town stalking Aelin, trying to get that word key. So she has devised a plan to get him off her trail and also to help her with her other plans. So, free magic and yada, yada. So she sneaks out one night with the suspicion that he's been following her all day and leads him down the sewers where she found the wordhound. She leads him down. She dips out before he can tell. And then he follows her scent straight to the nest and she hears fights begin. So he's fighting the guards. He's fighting the wordhound. And she gets out and she's feeling pretty smug and proud and she walks back home. She sees her apartment and she's almost there when Lorcan comes up, grabs her and shoves her face first into a wall just outside her apartment. He has her pinned. He calls her a bitch. And being the person that she is, she's like, well, it's kind of your fault for falling for that trap in the first place. So you can't really be that mad at me. And obviously he threatens to kill her right here and there. And she slips a dagger out, pointing it at his dick. And she's like, do you really want to risk immortality without your favorite appendage? So he lets her go. He's like, fine, whatever. And they continue their little aggressive banter. She asks if he was able to kill those guards and the wordhound. And he was like, actually, there were 6 of those guards and the wordhound. And yes, I did kill them, you dumb bitch. So Aelin is continuing her smart ass comments. And Lorcan is like, you're being really brave and smarty for somebody who doesn't have their magic, And that's when Rowan appears. Rowan pops up right behind Lorcan with a knife to his neck. And remember that Lorcan is actually one of Rowan's friends. But being sworn to 2 different queens, Rowan is not above killing him right now. But Lorcan has the upper hand in this situation. He tells them that if they kill him, Maeve is going to offer her aid to the king of Aderlin against their cause. So Rowan lets him go, and Lorcan uses this leverage to give another verbal stab and asks Rowan what he's even going to be doing when Aelin grows old and he is just left without her. Like, who is he going to be serving? Who's going to be warming his bed? And I'm like, that is tea. Like, Lorcan just sounds like another Rowan, essentially. He's just running his mouth. He's very aggressive.
He's such a dick. And what a low blow, too. Like, shut your mouth, actually.
Yeah, he was really coming for him. He's like, also, what are you even fighting for? Because she's going to die and you're just going to be here. And then what? That's rough. But, just here's the other thought I had. Why can't she just be in her Fae form at all times? Would that not just keep her immortal? It wouldn't?
Not if she doesn't go into the settling, because she'll still age the same. It doesn't have to do with being in your Fae form. It has to do with like your genetics is how I understood it. Yeah. Because Fae age too.
Yeah.
Like they eventually die. They're not immortal, but they they're like hundreds and hundreds of years, but they still
Yeah.
age
Yeah.
slowly.
Well, okay, so they go their separate ways, and when they get back to the apartment, Rowan is pissed because this is not the first time that Aelin has snuck out of the house in the middle of the night. She's been doing this thing where she sneaks out and she comes back in the middle of the night, and everything is like, she's just like, I'm not telling anybody what I'm up to. She's being very sus. And he's like, I literally blood swore myself to you. Please let me be with you at all times. And she's like, respectfully, no. Instead, she would like to talk about what Lorcan had mentioned earlier about the fact that she's going to be aging and Rowan is not going to be aging. But Rowan is not ready for that conversation. Like you said, it's pretty obvious that Aelin is crushing on Rowan. She has feelings for him. She wants to act on them. But Rowan is still like holding her at arm's length. And he's like, no, we're not going to be talking about this right now. And I just feel bad because I feel like she's like, does he like me? Does he not like me? I hate that kind of confusion
That's the
era.
worst.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially when the other person is definitely showing that they have affection for you, but isn't wanting to admit or talk anything about that. That's
Yeah, because
so uncertain.
Rowan has been doing those little things where he's like looking at her certain ways or grazing her in a certain way. And like they are definitely flirting.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's not just making things up. Rowan is definitely giving her those vibes that he is also into her. But then like as soon as she tries to make moves, he's like, no.
Well, they're also like very intimate with each other. Like affectionate. Like the bait, like her washing his hair type thing, like them sleeping in the same bed, him caring for her like a mother hen after she almost burnt out at the what is it? I can't remember what it's called.
At
That
the
fire
solstice.
fest. Yeah. Like they're very intimate too. It's not like
Yeah.
they are just like friends, like casually warming up to each other. They're like, they have like a very deep bond.
On top of being Karen him.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So Lysandra comes by again to the apartment to drop some more things off, and she officially introduces herself to Rowan. And from Aelin's perspective, it looks like she's really into Rowan. And she even goes so far as to compliment his fangs. And Rowan says something that no one saw coming. He asks, are you studying them so you can replicate them when you take my form, shapeshifter? Aiden calls bullshit, and Aelin is frozen with fear because she's getting triggered that another friend has been lying to her yet again, and about a power that has been known to be the bane of courts across the world for their abilities to thieve, spy, and assassinate at any price that they demand. Would Lysandra be abusing her power if Aelin freed it? Who's to say? But besides this big, huge news, this explains why Lysandra was giving those morally gray vibes. And she once even told Aelin, which is all making sense now, she once told Aelin, you and I are nothing more than beasts wearing human skins. This makes sense. This makes sense.
I got like full body chills when I read that. I can't wait to get more into it. Keep talking. I have so many things I want to talk about.
Yeah. Let me keep finishing. Okay, so Lysandra begins explaining her secret, how no one, not even Arabin, knows about this secret. She found out about her gifts when she was young, and she suspects she got her gift from her father, who she knows nothing about. When her mom found out about her gifts, it was during the time when the king of Aderlin was outlawing magic, so she kicked Lysandra out and told her if she didn't leave, she would turn her in. So Lysandra had to learn how to survive on her own. She learned that the prettier she was, the easier it was for her to get money. And apparently the body that she's in now is a result of her getting stuck in it when they banished magic completely. And it's been so long now that she doesn't even know what her true self would look like these days because she's shifted so much and she's aged in this new body. Eventually, after a few years being stuck in this body, she was found by Arabin, brought in, and groomed to be a courtesan. So she asked Aelin if she were to free magic, would she be okay with having shapeshifters in the kingdom? And Aelin says, of course, because she's understanding now that her and Lysandra were in the same position and they had to hide their identity to protect themselves. Rowan asked if she had a favorite form to shift into, and Lysandra was like, anything with big claws, big fangs, and just big overall.
I think it's so funny, or I mean, it's so lucky for her that she was not in an animal form whenever the kingdom fell.
Suck.
Yeah, that would have been real bad.
Yeah, that could have been terrible. I wouldn't have even thought to be in an animal, though. Like as a shapeshifter, I probably would just be copying everybody else. But I guess she has an affinity for animals because of the fangs and claws and shiz.
Well, also think about like the small spaces you could get into if you were a mouse, or if you were a fly, you could just fly in and listen. You could be a fly on the wall somewhere, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, now that you say that, because again, like the spies and thieves and assassins, like you would be able to sneak in and do everything if you could. That actually is kind of a badass power. Would you rather be a fae or a shapeshifter?
I think a shifter.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Because then you could look like, be anything that you want.
Do you think shapeshifters have the same kind of strength that fays have? Like, could they shift into a fae and have that kind of strength?
They can shift into anything that they want.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Amazing.
I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait to keep reading. There's so much. Okay. Anyway, go on.
Keep going. So Lysandra was actually here to give Aelin this box that she had requested, and she tells her that Arobynn is going to be summoning her to deliver the Valguard tomorrow. Aelin walks Lysandra out to the carriage, and Lysandra is asking her if she's ready. Aelin said she's running out of time, and she asked Lysandra if she would do it in 2 nights' time from now, and if she could. And Lysandra is like, I thought about it since the day that Wesley died, and I would gladly do it, but I'm okay with you doing it. This whole conversation had me very confused. I reread it like 3 times, and I am still kind of confused because I'm not sure what the fuck they're talking about. I had part of me thinking that they were talking about freeing magic. Like, are they ready to free magic? But then the last part of it makes me feel like there might be consideration to have Lysandra assisting Aelin in killing Arobynn.
Yeah, I remember reading this conversation and being like, what is happening? Tell me right now. It was very confusing. You're supposed to be confused in this conversation, though. You know, it's like alluding to something that's about to happen.
No, I definitely get that. Like, you already can tell I have lots of questions and I'm confused. And I'm also really confused about what the fuck this box is that she's got. Like, what's in the box? Why did you bring this box? What's in here? And I just want to know what Aelin is up to. Because, like, we're reading her POV. And even in her POV, it tells us that she's sneaking off and doing things. I'm like, hey, I'm reading her. Why aren't you telling me what's going on?
In this book is where you start to see her like master planning and like secret keeping. Like she does it more than ever before in this book. I feel like because there's so many people she cares about, she's trying not to involve people in like her scheming. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think because she's lost so many people. But all those TikToks you see about like Aelin being like a master planner, this is when it starts. This is when it begins.
Yeah, it seems like she has like 3 different plans going on right now. That's why I'm so confused. I'm like, what are we talking about and what is going on? Okay. So Lysandra had warned her that Arobynn was going to send them that invite. And the next day, bright and early in the morning, Aelin gets the invitation for her to join him at dinner. He wants her to bring her friends, Rowan and Aiden, and the Valg demon. And the theme is black tie attire. What a psychopath. He's like, let's have a hostage and black tie dinner, please. So he also brought with this invitation a body oil for her to wear, and she smells it and she knows exactly what it is. It is his scent. It's another sick power play of his, and he wants her to put it all over her body so that way Rowan and Aiden can smell his scent all over her. How twisted.
That is borderline sexual assault.
No,
actually disgusting.
He's a creep.
He's so disgusting.
Yeah.
I know that's Aelin, not actually sexual assault. However, it feels so icky. Like that makes me feel dirty.
He's also been saying really sexual things to her too about like how much she's grown and how much more she's filling out her assassin suit and how beautiful she is and how much he would love to worship her, be by her side and everything. And I'm like, he
raised her.
He's her dad, kind of.
Anyway.
Yeah. So Aelin brings Rowan to where she led Lorcan to kill the guards and the word hound, and she explains how he unknowingly helped her plans to free magic, because now that the word hounds have visual and scent on Lorcan, who is a fae in this city, they'll likely be busy trying to track him down, which keeps Lorcan and the king's demons off and distracted from her and their plans. And her plan to free magic is this: blow up the clock tower from the ground up. So they go off from that. They go to find this Val guard for Arabin's dinner. They find one, they use him, and they try to get some answers out of him for themselves before they bring him over to Arabin's, because why not? And it's very obvious that whoever is being possessed is still fighting this demon. He switches in and out of his own like desperate voice to the evil demonic voice in between their questioning. And they confirm that the rings are a way to enslave and corrupt the people. And the king had ordered them, like all these guards, to wear it during the uniform change. And that is how they all got corrupted. The trapped man is begging for her to kill him because of all the fucked up things he's had to do. And this demon has for all the fucked up things that he's had to do. And as I said before, there's a lot of ambiguity of what she's up to because the scene ends here and I have no idea what she's up to, but she looked at his ring and she gave this weird smile after he asked her to kill him. And she was like, And then it just disappeared. I'm like, what is she going to do? Can she take the ring? And if she does take the ring, will he still be possessed? I'm confused. More silence.
Very interesting.
Very suspicious, if I must say. Princess. What are you up to, princess?
I hate that TikTok so much. It makes me so uncomfortable, but I love it.
I also love it as well.
Princess, what are you up to, princess?
Princess, you shouldn't be keeping secrets from your prince.
That is horrific.
All right, so they lock that guy up in the cellar. We move on. Aelin sneaks out again in the middle of the night. She comes back. She's covered in ash, and she smells like smoke. And then she passes out right next to Rowan. And Rowan is, pissed because he's like, you snuck out again. And she's like, chill. It wasn't even that big of a deal. He's like, you're literally covered in smoke and ash. Like, obviously it was something. And then she like passed out dead tired. So Rowan is kind of fuming at this point, and he's wondering and battling in his head, how is he supposed to trust her if like she gave him his blood oath and he's promising to fight with her, but she's still sneaking off and doing her own thing. Like, what's the point of being here with her right now? Like, what's the deal? So he's like spiraling. He's going through all of this stuff on top of all these other mixed emotions because the fact that he's also a little bit horny for her, but he's trying to like keep that at bay. And so he's getting up in the morning. He's still cycling through this. He's ready for a fight. He's like preparing, the mental battles that you're going to do. And she gets down there and she sees him. She's like, listen, please, let's just hold off on this real quick. Let's not fight. I've got something that I need from you and I want you to come with me. And he's like, what? What is it? I want to go to Sam's burial site. So they go over to Sam's burial site. And originally, Arabin had left it unmarked because Arabin's an asshole, but Wesley had gone over there and carved it. So the grave is marked now. They find it. And on their way up to the site, it's a tradition for Terrason memorials to bring rocks to their grave sites because I think it's a sign of like, you'll never forget them. The rocks are ever lasting and they don't die like flowers. So rocks are what we bring for respect and saying, I have you in my mind and my thoughts forever. So that's what they were doing on the way up. They were gathering these rocks and Aelin begins to talk to him. She talks to the grave. She tells him what's happened to her in the last few months. And she tells him the secret that she wasn't able to tell him before he died. What happened to her all those years ago before magic had vanished and after magic had vanished and how she got here. And she tells him everything. She finally comes clean. Rowan comes up as she's finishing her little spiel to Sam, and he even leaves a little rock for him, and she gives her final words. She doesn't apologize for Sam's death because she knows that it wasn't her fault. It was Arabin, and he was murdered. But tonight, she was going to be settling that debt once and for all. And I don't know about you, but I feel like this was a very good note to end on because I feel like with what's happening with the way that her and Lysandra are talking, I feel like obviously they're up to something. They're going to try to free magic, kill Arabin, and I think that they're going to do both of these at the same time and cause complete chaos.
I also, I'm so excited. Aelin, she has her little secrets, like she has her secrets, but she's bringing people in where she needs to bring people in. Like she's got little secrets with Lysandra. She's got little secrets with Rowan. Like, she's such a secretive girl. I love the way her mind works, her planning. She's like 10 steps ahead.
I wish I could say the same thing, but I'm a nosy girl, and I feel like if I'm reading your POV, I should know what you're doing. And I
Yeah.
don't like the secrets.
That's true. I feel that
But
that's fair, but it really does keep you wanting to read, though, I will say.
it's true.
Pretty good tactic to finish a book, I will say.
I feel like writing something like this where there is so many like secrets, but like you're the writer, so you know what those secrets are. It's so hard to write that in a good way. And I feel like Sarah J. Maas is definitely doing a good job at like making it interesting, flowing it all well. And like the plans are so complex and there's so many characters too. Like that's the other thing. It's like, it's not just Aelin. There's a ton of characters that are all having like their own moving parts.
Well, and they're very like, she's giving you enough to be like, oh God, what's going to happen? Like, I need to know what's going to happen next. It's not like you're completely confused, but you also still have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah. Like the smallest little things, like what was in the fucking box?
Mm-hmm.
What was in there? I need to know what was in the box. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, that was a great episode.
Well, next week, get ready for more because we're going to be covering Queen of Shadows chapters 40 through 49.
And we might have a little special episode drop next week for a little spooky Halloween vibe. So stay tuned on October 31st, you Halloween bitches. And be sure to follow us on TikTok at plot.peak and Instagram at Plot Peak Podcast for all things updates and news and memes. That's all we want. News. Nudes.
All right, losers or peakers. I'm so sorry. I'm tired, guys.
All right,
anyways,
losers.
Don't take that personally. I'm so sorry.
Get in, loser. We're going shopping. Okay, bye.
All right, bye. See you guys later.